Hello, I'm Renewable Energy Steve, and welcome to our mid-year analysis of net zero energy usage in 2025. Looking back at 2024, we ended the year with 8,800 kilowatt hours of gas usage for heating and hot water. We had aspirations of getting a heat pump, but going into 2025 hadn't yet found the right deal. In terms of solar, it wasn't a great year for weather either. It was very wet. We were still quite close to our 5,000 kilowatt hours generation target. And in October 2024, we added a new east and west array to bolster our generation. But going into 2025, we only had a couple of months of data from a shaded winter. So there was a lot of unknowns for that system going forward. We also have two EVs, which between them cover around somewhere between 12 and 14,000 miles. The efficiency we believe to be around 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, and the energy demand based on that is around about 3,500 kilowatt hours. With that all said, could net zero energy usage in 2025 really be a possibility? We have made a couple of key additions which perhaps give us a fighting chance this year. Let's get into the analysis. When I started this channel, there were two key goals I had in mind. The first was to achieve net zero energy usage across the whole year, and by that I mean the annual energy import would be less than the annual energy export, and this would include everything, so heating, hot water, cooking, general household usage, and also I wanted to include charging of both our EVs, which we use for travel. The second key goal was to achieve negative energy bills across the year. In theory, this should be a byproduct of achieving net zero energy usage, particularly where import prices and export prices vary depending on the time of use. There's a lot of smart tariffs out there that can result in financial viability and even profitability. So what's my motivation for all of this? On a household level, I believe we're all accountable for our own energy usage. Our individual decisions can collectively make a difference, and we shouldn't wait for politicians to tell us to be greener. I believe the technology exists now, and we can make good use of it. I want my children to grow up in a net zero energy household to set the best possible example for them and hope they share these values as they grow up. Strong energy independence also protects us from energy bill hikes. Being self-sufficient gives us that extra financial security where energy is concerned. After continuing to research the topic, I managed to find a heat pump that was appropriate for the property. So we have a 115 square metre 4-bedroom home over 2 floors. The heat loss was measured at 4.9 kilowatts. I was initially concerned about the 10mm micro bore pipes. They're everywhere. They're very thin plastic pipes that you get on a lot of new builds these days. And the problem with them being so thin is that they restrict the amount of flow. And that's typically a bad thing with heat pumps because they tend to be more efficient at lower temperatures. The Cozy 6 has a design temperature of 50 degrees rather than say 40 that a lot of the others are. It can go over 65 if it needs to. So at that point you're looking at gas boiler temperatures, no problem at all, they're achievable. And overall this seemed like the right kind of product for our house. So as such we went ahead and installed the Cozy 6 in March. Price was a big contributing factor to being able to go ahead with this. I had quotes in region of £3,000 to £5,000, and that even included the boiler upgrade scheme grant, which is £7,500, which I consider to be essential for a lot of people to be able to afford the heat pumps. Their base prices are still very, very expensive, and the installation price, it does vary massively from house to house. There's a lot of variables that determine how much it's going to be. For myself, the stars absolutely aligned, and I'm so fortunate to say that it only cost me £150. I honestly couldn't quite believe it. I was expecting something a little over 500 to 1,000 thereabouts. I made a YouTube video about it, how that came about, so feel free to check that out. They have changed the way that they do the installations now. Octopus, who install these Cozy 6s and manufacture them, they now offer two solutions. They have what's called a Cozy, and they have a eco install. They actually offer a sale at the moment as well, 15% off until the end of August. So to get some additional savings, I do have a referral code if that's of interest to you. That referral code covers both discounts to the Cozy range, which Octopus pioneered themselves, but also the Daikin models, which is another manufacturer who are very well established in the market of heat pumps. So it's a case of picking whichever your preference is and whatever is more appropriate for your property. So I'll pop that discount referral code in the description. But on to efficiency then, and what my expectations were from the Cozy 6. My expectation was around 3 to 3.5 coefficient of performance over the course of the year. Heating is definitely more efficient than hot water. With no heating being used in late spring and summer, it's very difficult to project an exact SCOP for the year, but let's examine the results so far. So because the installation happened in the early days of March, we have data from the 6th, which I can share. So looking at March then, we have this graph. You're going to be seeing a lot of these, which shows the efficiency, the input, the output, and also the outdoor temperature. I would caution that the outdoor temperature, when the sun's shining on it because of the solar gain and the temperature sensor being within the unit itself, it can display temperatures that are a little bit higher than what they actually are. But otherwise, this data is good to look through. So for March, we had a COP of 3.39, an input of just under 260, and an output of around about 873. For April, we had a much higher COP of 3.61, actually, an input of just 161, which means that's how much power we used, energy, how much energy we used over the course of the month of April, and that gave us 582 nearly units of heat. May, slightly lower COP this time, and you'll notice that our input is much lower. So what's happened here is our heating has not been needed, so a lot of these days are just hot water. Hot water typically has less efficiency, so you'll notice that the COP did drop, and it's a similar story for June as well. So we're looking at 3.47. The input there, very, very low. In fact, it's as low as 42.66. So very, very cheap month, and we'll look at the numbers in terms of pounds and cost in just a moment. But let's look at the lowest usage day. So that was June the 28th. We only used an input there of 822 watt hours for our hot water. Bearing in mind we have a 180 litre tank and we have a family of 4 living here. Conversely, the highest usage day was actually March the 17th. Bear in mind we don't have any data prior to March the 6th. So March the 17th was the day in the time frame that we have that we use the most. The COP was actually respectable at 3.4. The input was as high as 17.36, but that is interesting and quite useful information because the Tesla Powerwall battery storage that we have, there's 2 of them, and they are 27 kilowatt hours in total. So in the winter, it does seem feasible that the batteries might be able to cover the entire heat pump on a cold day. So that would be good. In terms of highest coefficient of performance, that was the 30th of June. It wasn't quite 34 degrees as it says there. I think it was about 31 at that point. But you'll notice I've employed a tactic there of using the hot water, getting the hot water cycle on while the weather is warmest. So that gave me a COP of 4.02. Lowest was kind of the opposite. At this stage, I was doing the hot water at night, between I think 2 and 3:30. So there's a lot of usage there. There was some heating usage on this particular day as well. It was a very, very cold night, so just below zero, and that gave us a COP of 2.92 for that particular day. So this chart shows how the coefficient of performance changed from month to month. So in March, that was our baseline data there, which gave us 3.39. Then in April, the temperatures did warm up quite nicely. We had a mixture of some heating. Most of the time we did have the heating on in April, but it was warmer, which made the heat pump more efficient. So that gave us 3.61. In May, we had a combination of a small amount of heating, but obviously much warmer weather. And in June, we had absolutely no heating whatsoever. It was all just hot water. So that gives us 3.47 on that one. So to establish how much this all cost, we need to look at our unit rates. And it does depend on the tariff. We have Octopus Go, but also the proportion of off-peak import versus peak import. Typically we aim to have less than 1% of peak import and do all of our importing during the off-peak if we can. Here's just a breakdown of how that's varied over the months. So March we did pretty well, average cost of 8.66 pence. So fairly standard, as you would expect. April was massively higher than that because we had quite a lot of downtime due to a solar installation, which we'll talk about later. And in May, that solar installation was being finished on the 1st of May specifically. So on both those occasions, we had to turn off the solar and the battery. In June, it's quite small amounts of usage, lots of sunshine from the solar as well. So we really didn't have to import anything outside of off-peak hours. So following those calculations, we can now look at the monthly cost of our heat pump. So these are our running costs. So March, £22.32, April, £15.10, May, £7.02, and June, just £3.63, which I think is pretty fantastic. So let's look at the average daily costs. So we're looking at 72 pence per day in March. April, we're looking at 50 pence per day. May, 23 pence per day. And June, as little as 12 pence per day. And just going back to the day we used the least amount of energy, there was one particular day where we used just under 7 pence to do our hot water, which is very impressive. So it's fair to say the heat pump looks to be a success at this stage. But let's look at some of the other aspects of our energy usage, starting off with the gas usage that preceded the heat pump installation. So I still had gas between the 1st of January and the 3rd of March. In that time frame, we used 2,888 kilowatt hours, which is quite a lot. As of 5th of March, the meter was officially decommissioned and the boiler was removed. Looking at EV charging, so I estimate between January and June it was in the region of 2,100 kilowatt hours. This is subject to a margin of error because our project EV charger that came with the house, with it being a new build house, it had a charger, but it's not very smart. It doesn't log data, or if it does, I've not been able to find an app that actually is compatible with it at this stage. So as such, we have some data logged from the Tesla granny charger that's in the garage. So that tracks a little bit of it. The rest of it I had to try and go through my Powerwall data, figure out my usage patterns, and try and establish what was car charging. Car charging does tend to stand out because I do it overnight and it tends to be around about 7.4 kilowatt hours. And then for general household usage for the 6-month period between January the 1st and June the 30th, we are including cooking, washing, lighting, entertainment, so things like TV watching, computer, games consoles, and obviously working. We're excluding vehicle charging, and just a note on the vehicle charging, I said that that was a bit of an estimate. Any kind of miscalculation on that would either come off or be added on to this general household usage one. So the total between the two will definitely be correct. It's just perhaps the ratio might be ever so slightly out if I've miscalculated that. But it's also worth noting that I have excluded heating from the heat pump and the gas usage, because we've covered that separately. So that gives us a total of 1,369. Now, there is a bit of a hidden usage that we need to take into account as well, and that is storage and conversion losses. Now, as effective as storing energy is, it's never completely free. It needs converting from AC to DC, and then back from DC to AC again, and any battery management that goes on. So the total losses as a result of storage was 253 kilowatt hours. So taking all of that usage into account, and we are looking at usage here, not imported energy, that gives us a total of 7,151. And on the right here is a pie chart with the proportion, and this is everything from January to June. You'll note that the heat pump only covers, say, 5th, 6th of March onwards up until the end of June. The gas, conversely, covers the very start of January, but only up to the 3rd of March. Other than that, the next biggest looks to be the car charging, with general household actually taking up a smaller slice of the pie, and losses representing 4% of the total energy usage. So usage is half the battle when it comes to net zero energy usage, but what about generation? That's the other half. And we did have a new solar array installed. This gives us an extra 4.5 kilowatt peak of capacity. It is limited to 3.8 by inverters, but this is a mixture of 4 south facing on the garage, 4 north facing on the garage, and 2 panels on the north of the house. The majority of this was activated on April the 25th, but it was completed on May the 1st, as there was a bit of an incident with a couple of the panels, so they had to get replaced. So here is the total generation then, and it's been an incredible 2025. The start has been really, really nice. So we've managed to achieve total generation of 6,340 kilowatt hours, which is actually in total 25% up on the PV watts projections. So on the right there you can see only February really is the day we've fallen short on expectations. Other than that, we've been comfortably above, so that's really good to see. I just wanted to highlight how fortunate we've been, anyone with solar panels in 2025, because it has been a fantastic year so far for solar. In fact, March, there's an article on the Met Office website that suggests it's actually the sunniest throughout the month since records began in 1910, with 185 hours of sunshine throughout the month. And it wasn't just March that was good, April was good too. Great Britain managed to achieve maximum solar generation record according to Solar Power Portal. Obviously some of that was due to additional installations across the country, but there was also a great deal of sunshine there. Check out my monthly solar generation videos, and you'll see more details in terms of how my systems have been performing. This does give us a solar offset at this point in the year, so end of June, of 88.66 of total usage. Now remember, this was including gas usage prior to March the 5th, and also we only had the additional solar fully online from May the 1st. So the second half of the year should be a little bit better than that. Let's now look at import versus export then. In January, we imported quite a bit and didn't export a great deal. We have the outgoing octopus, which gives us an export rate of a flat 15 pence. So in a lot of cases, it's good to be exporting a lot if we can. In February, we were able to improve our export a little bit, but you're still looking at only half the amount of export compared to import. In March, it was very, very even, incredibly even, but we just managed to have a net export of just over 19 kilowatt hours. In April, things improved massively. We did a lot more solar generation, so that gave us a net export of 431.7, but just wait for May. We had our first megawatt hour of export, and that also gave us a net export just over 1 megawatt as well, so that was really impressive. But we even managed to top that in June. We exported just over 1.5 megawatts, which was really awesome, and only imported 239 odd. So that gives us a net export of 1,262. So here is a visual summary of how the electricity import and export has changed. Note that January and February are a little bit low actually on import. They would be much higher, but because we're using gas, which is excluded from this particular table because we're only talking about electricity here, those values are a little bit low, but they are of course higher in winter and reducing downwards. The export does the opposite. It's very low in the winter with the seasonal variance, less light hitting those solar panels. May and June we do of course have that new installation, which makes a big difference to the amount of export there. So what does all this mean for energy costs? In January, we had a bill of around about £50, net bill that is. In February, it came down to just over 30. And then in March, we had our first profitable month where £103 exported versus £76 imported, meant that we were owed £27.15. In April, that got upscaled quite nicely to just over 79, and then coming on to May, this was a really profitable one, £169 in our direction, and then finally June was a fantastic one, nearly £190 worth of profit there, and remember these do include the standing charge as well. So let's have a look at the bill cost summary. Naturally, March was that turning point for us, and April, May and June became nice and profitable. We should note that for this 6-month time frame, we have to add the gas onto this as well. When we do that, the difference between the import costs, including the gas, and the export costs in total gives us a credit of £185.29, which bodes well going forward for the second half of the year where we wouldn't have that gas. So let's make some projections for the second half of this year. We can make assumptions around EV charging, household usage, and even the storage losses for the second half of the year by simply looking at what they were in the first half of the year, and putting them into the second half of the year, so essentially doubling where we are now on all of those factors. For the heat pump, it's a little bit different because we only had that active since March, so we can make assumptions that July to October probably would mirror March to June, and also for the winter side of what the heat pump might do, we can take the gas usage, multiply that by a factor of 0.9, and then also divide by 3 to get, if we're assuming an expected COP of 3, which I think that's probably around about what we're looking at, and if all those assumptions are correct, that would give us a result of around about 12,280. So that's energy usage. Let's look at energy generation projections. We can take the January and June results as they are, and rather than extrapolating that based on the weather as it currently is, I think it probably makes more sense to assume the PV watts targets are met. The annual generation in that instance, if you added all that together, would be 11,352. So looking at those two values then, our solar offset is not quite enough to meet our usage, but you never know. We've had some very, very good weather in the first half of the year, so if we get that in the second half, that gives us a fighting chance. And realistically, if we're able to get some savings in terms of energy usage, maybe we can find a few more efficiencies there. That might also give us a fighting chance. Ultimately, we were kind of undone by those first couple of months of gas usage in 2025, but it's possible. Things have been pretty good so far. It looks like all the ingredients are in place, so check back in 6 months. But just looking ahead to 2026, that looks like if we take the same assumptions as before, we should have solar generation which would not only meet our usage demands but exceed them by nearly 5%. So if that was the case, I would be very happy with that. So just looking at the future outlook, we are of course already pretty close to net zero in 2025. We may not achieve that, but it's looking like no further investment is needed based on what we already have. Positive bill credit is projected to be strong in 2025, probably at least £300, which is good. And our current system is very adaptable to tariff changes. So if our 15 pence export gets taken away, we can just shift the way we use our electricity and our storage, and do things a little bit differently to whatever any new tariffs would be optimal. In terms of risks, heat pump efficiency, that's untested at sustained sub-zero temperatures, so you never know, it might be quite a bit below 3 on the coefficient of performance. We'll see how that goes. Technical faults could obviously affect generation. I hope not. Everything's been pretty reliable so far, but that's always a possibility. And weather fluctuations, I say it's been very, very strong in 2025 so far. Sometimes it's a case of what goes around comes around, and great weather, sustained periods of great weather, is sometimes followed by sustained periods of bad weather. So we'll see how that goes. If you would like to know how this story ends in 6 months' time, and indeed in another year beyond that, please subscribe to my channel and look out for those updates. Let me know in the comments, are you on track for net zero energy usage? Is that something you want to achieve yourself? Do you have any plans to try and achieve it in the near future? Is there anything stopping you from achieving it? Let me know, or any other comments you have about this video. Please like if you enjoyed it. That helps promote my channel to other viewers who might enjoy it. Other than that, a big thank you for watching this far. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you soon.